what we keep hearing from lots of people, which is, what do I do when it comes for me, right? I think the answer can't be an individual answer. It's not going to work. And what I have begun to observe is that there's certain environments online where you can't navigate this stuff. And then there are others where the structure of the environment itself allows you to. Mm-hmm. So on Reddit, for example, Reddit is now a disaster for many reasons. But inside of a subreddit, many people can talk about what's going on. And most of the users are anonymous just by virtue of the way it works. And so my point would be, I think that people who understand that there's something wrong about the ideology that's marching through our national landscape and upending structures on which we are depending, that those people need to be able to find each other, and they need to be able to have a conversation that functions as a reality check at first. And that reality check is the key ingredient to be able to maintain your bearing. That is to say, when it comes for you, it's going to be very hard to resist the mob and what it insists is true in terms of your defects, and it's going to be very hard not to say the things that it wants you to say. I would advise you not to say those things, but it's not going to be possible for everybody. People have livelihoods they have to maintain. People have children they have to protect. But if you can find a community that is capable of barring that set of Kafka traps, and you can check in with it, and you can say, look, I had to go to this training in order to retain my job, and I can't afford to give up my job. But here's what was said at this training, and here's why I find it absurd. And somebody else can say, I saw the very same thing, and here's what I thought. That reality check that allows people who are trying to resist this to just simply not be each of us alone, but to find each other, compare notes, and then eventually to discover things that work. What can you say when somebody says one of these things that actually causes the script to change, that diverts it for a moment, that detains it, that causes it to have to answer questions that it should have to answer? Mm-hmm. I believe in there is the seeds of a solution in which we stop playing defense, which isn't working, and we start playing offense, which will.
Yeah. And you can start collecting people this way. Right, people who are listening here presumably already know most of this, and probably many of you are being forced to sit in on these trainings to participate, maybe even to identify your own internal racism, whatever. Maybe you are in a place where you can speak up. We would hope so. Find a place online where you can do exactly what Brett is talking about, and then go back to the next training maybe a bit emboldened with an idea of how you can say something, how you can just lodge an idea, lodge a criticism that even if it does not make clear to the people organizing the training or the true believers that you are in fact lodging a complaint, those other people among your colleagues who also don't respect what is going on will hear it, and probably at least one of them will come to you quietly, privately, and say, yeah, me too. At which point you invite them in to whatever online community you have and say, listen in on this then. Let us figure out if we can generate ideas and tools with which to fight off this thing, this ideology, which is not about anti-racism, and it's not about inclusivity, and it's not about diversity. It is quite the opposite. And then next time you go to a training again, maybe there are now two of you. One person stands up in a room of 30, you'll get shouted down, as you did, right? As you did, Brett. But two people, there's a better chance. Three people, what's the tipping point? There will be some tipping point. There will be some tipping point, and it's going to change. It's not going to be a flat percentage in a room of 30 versus a room of 300. It's not going to be 10% in both places, but there is some number of people in a room that says, you know what? No. Me critiquing the work of someone is not racist based on whether or not they have black skin or not. No. Everyone gets to be critiqued, everyone gets to be congratulated, and focusing on the color of the skin of the person who I'm critiquing is actually the racist thing, not the other way around.
Absolutely. And as you pointed out when we initially started exploring this as a solution, one of the things that is sure to happen if you check in with your online environment, which you may have to create, it may be a Slack or a Discord or something, you create an environment where you can safely talk and you can establish the rules for people coming in. good, honorable IDW kind of rules. But once you do that and you establish your reality check and you figure out what you can say in a training that will advertise that maybe you're not quite fully on board, you will find people will come to you and they will say, thank you. Thank you for doing that, right? When you know who those people are who hear what you're saying and wish that they were saying it too, you can invite them into these communities and they can get their reality check. And what that means is that you will ultimately form a group of people who understands that something that isn't desirable is afoot, and you can start figuring out how to back each other up and you will become safer. So I think that really is the route to a solution.
Yeah. So you said something to me a week or more ago that you haven't yet said on air, so I'm going to say it and see if you want to riff just briefly before we have a number of announcements and then go to break before we come back for the Q&A. We should all be pursuing the moment when, if we were in a movie, the hero music would be playing, right? We all recognize it when it happens in the movies. We know when that music is about to start playing, and we know what the character, what we want the character to do. We know who we want to be. We do. So how do we attain that in life?
Yeah, we all know the soundtrack. If they reversed the soundtrack of the villain and the hero, you'd be like, what the hell kind of movie is this?
What is this?
What is this?
Yeah.
Right? So we all know what it is that feels good. And we really all know, or most of us know, what's right. And so to the extent that something that is very much not right is afoot, the question is what does the hero do? What is that, the person gives the awful fascist speech and the hero in the back row does that slow clap thing that reveals that he's just not buying it, that thing. The question is, how do you get to that scene in the movie? What needs to be true in order for you to pull that off?